Hello, I'm Evelyn, and I would like to tell you something more about Innovation OIC, my company. I will start by telling something briefly about Innovation OIC. Then I will give some typical examples of problems that my customer face and what I will offer to resolve their problems. My vision on learning is very important, and I would like to briefly explain it. At the end, I will say something more about my experience. My company, Innovation OIC, has focused more and more on learning. I'm eager to learn and still learning every day new things about ETH. You also see the three letters OIC, which represent three key concepts. The O is for observation. Participatory observation is the research method within anthropology, and I'm an anthropologist. Also, observation with all your senses is the first learning method we use as a child. The I is for imagination. We use imagination to tell stories. Stories are a carrier of knowledge within communities. Storytelling and learning are as old as humanity. Apart from transferring knowledge, stories also ensure that the individual can position himself within the group. The C is for connection. Today, I prefer to use the word relate. I establish relationships between topics and people because wisdom arises between noses. Requests from customers can be about a good program design or an educational design or about content. But today, more and more customers come to me with the following questions. How can I keep my learning community dynamic? How do I prevent dropouts? How do I ensure that all actors remain involved? How do I ensure that I attract the right participants and how can I continue to support them even after the training? How can I gain insights into the collective knowledge of my organization? What about tacit knowledge in my company? What about my offer? Well, I'm always looking for a sustainable, human-centered and scalable learning solution. In human-centered educational design, I use my pedagogical and didactic knowledge, but emphasis also on my knowledge of relational cognition, which emphasis on relationships. In this way, I ensure more dynamics and involvement on learning platforms and in learning communities. Through a dropout analysis, you know exactly why participants drop out. You gain insights into their expectation and concerns. Usually, it is not a lack of motivation, but a lack of commitment and involvement. What can you do about this? And how do you get them involved again? In program and educational design, I assist organizations and experts who have no pedagogical knowledge. Within the learning community, the community design is often too standard. I think along with the customer about strategy, design, and management. The two main topics of content development are entrepreneurship and intercultural communication. This was briefly my offer. I can say that my vision on learning is not standard. Most of the people work and think very linearly within design thinking and design, but for me there are different elements who are intertwined. I use this 3D model. The first dimension consists of two elements we know, lifelong learning and life-wide learning. At the core of the sphere, there are two axes. The first represents resilience, the other self-efficacy. This means that you know which of your competences you need to use to achieve a certain learning goal. Finally, we have four quadrants. The first one is knowledge. The second one is experience. The third quadrant is identity. It refers to the self-reflection on the how of learning and how the individual can adapt his or her learning. The last quadrant is inter and intrapersonal learning. This ensures that we can position ourselves in a group and that both the individual and the collective knowledge increase. In addition to sustainable learning, my vision includes also human-centered design. This includes relational cognition. It provides a vision in which people as individual and in group are central. Learning, innovating, and transforming are vulnerable actions and require a safe environment. Power relations ensure that an environment is not safe, so it's much more difficult for an individual to self-reflect. Self-reflection is needed and is necessary to orientate yourself within a group, so you can get from an what's in for me to an what's in for us. Open dialogue and commitments between members of the group also ensure knowledge sharing and potential knowledge creation. Here you see some questions people ask themselves to come from motivation, what's in for me, to engagement, is it for me, towards involvement. This is the moment where the positioning of the individual in the group take place. It's a moment where we go from what's in for me to what's in for us, where we reflect on what the added value is that we give to the group and what we get from the group. This is the place where commitments and relationships take place. After this, you can reach loyalty. At this moment, you will think how we all can go together forward. I present this in a very linear way, but it seldom is. To stay human-centered in larger groups is difficult. As a trainer, team leader, or teacher, you cannot establish relationships with each individual at all times. The power balance also plays an important role. Through a natural digital authority, which has semi-structured ongoing conversations with each individual, we can gather the subjective images of the learning environment. The neutral authority represents the group. The obtained data gives a multi-perspective view on the learning environment. The captured data will be aggregated. To end, I would like to tell something more about my experiences. As an inquisitive anthropologist born within a tech family, I combined those two unique worldviews. I started in the world of training, education, facilitating, and business coaching. During the pandemic, I took the opportunity to take different roles within the learning field. I was a student at OMAC in Finland and studied educational entrepreneurship. I took also the opportunity to go further with my research on learning communities. I teach entrepreneurship at the University of Applied Science. I designed a coil on intercultural communication and designed and facilitated several hackathons and bootcamps on education and innovation. I managed a learning platform for smart cities and gave consultancy on different learning communities. This unique combined position enlarged my insights enormously. One thing is sure, I will continue to learn more about learning and to enjoy relating andragogy, pedagogy, anthropology, relational cognition, and technology. Are you interested to know more? Or do you want to see together where I can help you? Please contact me.